Shadow Kyogre is making its debut in Shadow Raids this weekend. We're going to do a full breakdown of Shadow Kyogre. We're going to look at a counter guide as well as a strategy to help you guys take this thing down as easily as possible. And right at the end, we're going to look at its rankings to see how good it really is right now in Pokemon GO. Is it worth your time? Is it worth raiding? This is Shadow Kyogre Raid weekend with Go With Us. The Shadow Kyogre Raid weekend is going to be starting this Saturday at 6 a.m. and they're going to be in raids all the way until Sunday the 17th at 10 p.m. local time. Before we begin, please remember we're in the middle of the Team Go Rocket takeover, which you can check out right here. We do a full breakdown of the new Shadow Pokemon, what to really focus on, especially when it comes to Shadow Giratina, as well as some top targets that you should be going after in that Shadow event. How good is Shadow Kyogre right now? Well, the best way to break this down is to look at its base stats. It has a max CP of 4652, an attack value of 270, and as a shadow that is extremely strong, a defense of 228 and a stamina of 205. All these stats are above average and very promising so far. The fast attacks that it has access to is only going to be one, which is going to be Waterfall. Its charge moves that it has access to is going to be Blizzard, Thunder, Hydro Pump, Surf, Origin Pulse, which is key because that is an elite charge TM we need to get on this Pokemon. And of course, when you catch Shadow Kyogre, it's going to know Frustration. Because we've just mentioned Frustration, remember that in the middle of this Team Go Rocket takeover, you can remove Frustration by using a charge TM. You're definitely going to be doing that for these Shadow Kyogres. Shadow Kyogre resists 4 different things: fire, ice, steel, and water. Shadow Kyogre is weak to 2 different things, which is going to be grass and electric. Before we get into our counter guide and strategy, it's important to remember how these Shadow Raids work at 5-star level. When fighting against a Shadow Legendary Raid boss, just like it was for Shadow Mewtwo for example, at about 60% of its HP, it becomes enraged. This enraged state lasts until about 30 or 20% HP, and then the raid gets a lot easier after that. But the only way to take away this enraged state is to use purified gems. The only way to get purified gems in the game right now is through Team Rocket members, which are going to be all over the map, but you can also get a huge drop rate from Shadow Raids. Sometimes they can drop up to 11 shards at a time. Usually it takes about 7 or 8 purified gems to lose the enraged state on the legendary boss. Guys, you need to group up with as many trainers as possible that have as many purified gems as possible, because long story short, more trainers equals less gems. But what are the best Pokemon to use? The first one undoubtedly is going to be Mega Sceptile with Fury Cutter and Frenzy Plant. Next up we have Mega Venusaur with Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant, and of course Mega Rayquaza will be in there just because of how strong that Dragon Ascent is. The best Shadow Pokemon you could use is going to be Shadow Raikou with Thunder Shock and Wild Charge. You could use Shadow Tangrowth, we haven't seen that in some time, with Vine Whip and Power Whip. Shadow Venusaur could work for you as well with Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant, and an honorable mention for something like Shadow Magnezone with Wild Charge too. The best budget counters you could use is going to be Raikou if you do have it with Thunder Shock and Wild Charge. Rillaboom is going to be in there with a Razor Leaf and Grass Knot. Chestnut can be used because of Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant, and we're even going to throw in Meowscarada there with Leaf Age and Frenzy Plant. According to research, using these Pokemon are going to be your best bet, but in terms of how many trainers you actually need, it's recommended only about 3 to 5. I would strongly recommend. You can do it and you will be able to complete the raid, but remember, we want to try and do as many as possible, which means you need to be grouping with as many trainers as possible, because like we said earlier, and we're gonna say it again, more trainers equals less gems. Once you defeat Shadow Kyogre, you're gonna get an encounter with it, and that 100% IV and non-weather boosted weather is gonna be 2351, but the weather boosted 100% IV is gonna be 2939, and that's only gonna be in rainy weather because of its water typing. Please also remember though that because this is a Shadow Legendary Raid, it means that the base floor is not going to be 10-10-10, it's going to be 6-6-6. As we said in the intro, Shadow Shiny Kyogre will be making its debut. Bear in mind that that shiny rate on this day is going to be about 1 in 20. It was a disaster for Origin Palkia and Origin Dialga over the weekend. Let's hope the same thing doesn't happen here. We've done the breakdown, we know what Pokemon to use, and we know what strategy to use with those purified gems, but how good is Shadow Kyogre in Pokemon GO in 2025? Let's start in PvP. Well guys, in PvP, the Shadow ranking only in the Master League, because that's where Kyogre is relevant. The regular Kyogre is just above it at 66th spot with XL Candy, and the Shadow is just breaking into the top 100. So overall, not the best Pokemon to use there, but as a raid attacker, oh my goodness, if we look in the water category, it is the 3rd best water type attacker in the game right now, only behind Primal Kyogre as well as Mega Swampert. That is so impressive. The reason why is just look at the DPS on that Origin Pulse. 27.93, which is actually higher than Mega Swampert, all at level 50. So even as a Shadow, if we go back to this water ranking, you can see that the TDO on this Pokemon is actually beating out some of the other things in the top 10, which I think is so impressive, especially as a Shadow. It doesn't end there. We already know that Shadow Kyogre gets access to 2 different moves, of which the first one is going to be Blizzard. Let's look in the Ice type category right now. Guys, Blizzard is taking Shadow Kyogre into the top 25, and it's not even an Ice type Pokemon. Again, if you look at the TDO of this Pokemon, even as a Shadow, it's actually beating out a few things that are above it in this category. So I think if you don't have any good Ice type attackers, this is a really good opportunity to get something on your team. And even if you look at the Electric type category, because it gets access to Thunder, it's just breaking to the top 50, which isn't as good as the other 2, we understand, and there will always be better Electric types we can use in the game, but I think it's just really showcasing how powerful this Shadow Pokemon really is. Let's quickly look at some top tips to help you guys maximize this event. The first thing is going to be candy gains as well as XL candy gains. Guys, it is so important right now. If you don't have a water type Mega Pokemon at level 2 or level 3, you could use something like Mega Blastoise, Mega Swampert. You could even use Primal Kyogre if you already have it. Because remember, at a Mega level 3, you have a 25% extra chance to get XL candy off every single encounter or raid. Guys, that is huge. Tip number 2, consider going to the web store. Guys, there is no event ticket for this raid weekend granting us passes. If you don't have a lot of green passes in your bag, I would strongly recommend going to the web store and picking up some sort of bundle of 10 or maybe 15 green passes at a cheaper price, because believe me, you're going to want to be doing as many of these as possible. Tip number 3, use party play. I cannot tell you how underrated this feature is. Think about it. Every single time you're in a raid and that blue meter charges up, guys, the party play doubles your damage for every single attack that you do, which is seriously going to help you in trying to take this raid boss down. Tip number 4, and this is more of a hidden tip because I know a lot of people might overlook this. Guys, if you get a Shadow Kyogre with 15 attack, that's all you really need. If you happen to get a Shadow Kyogre that's maybe a 13, 14, 13, remember, I would strongly consider to purify this Pokemon to make it a hundo so you can get a hundo of Primal Kyogre. Bear in mind, you need 400 Primal Energy to get Primal Kyogre, but this Pokemon is, as we listed in the water type category and some others as well, it is an extremely strong Pokemon that you should be using throughout your Pokemon Go journey. That is something I'm going to be looking out for if I happen to get a shiny that's a 13, 14, 13. Remember, every single time we purify, it gains 2 stat points on every single stat, which would make it a hundo. If you do purify a Shadow Kyogre to get a hundo Kyogre, frustration will disappear because it's now a purified Pokemon, but then you could use an Elite TM to get Origin Pulse on it. I would strongly recommend that. Like we said in the beginning, if you want to fully maximize this Rocket Takeover event, we're going to leave it as our end screen right now. That is Shadow Kyogre Raid Day, everything you really need to know. Please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It's the best way to tell the YouTube machine that you want to see more of our content. This was Shadow Kyogre Raid Day with Go With Us.